Back, the state of Florida inching closer to banning ESG policies. The state's House voting to remove these investments in state and local pension funds, lending decisions, and state contracting. Joining me right now is the Florida Chief Financial Officer, Jimmy Patronis. Jimmy, it's great to have you. Thanks very much for being here. Tell us more about what you're doing in response to the President Biden, pushing this ESG rule on investment portfolios.
Well, thank you for having me. We started pushing back on ESG. And then look, it just boiled down to just simple return on investment. I'm a trustee over the state's treasury, but also sit on the SBA, which manages the retirement funds, along with Governor DeSantis and the Attorney General, when it comes to our $200 billion portfolio. There's a recession looming. I was here during the last downturn of the crisis that we had in 2009, and I don't want to go through the pain and suffering that we did in 2009. So, I just took a serious look, and unfortunately, those funds that have been focused on ESG have just not been focused on the bottom line, and they're not the financial partner that the state of Florida needs.
So you're saying, basically, from a return on investment standpoint, you're not winning. You're looking at investments in environment, social, governance, and it's not necessarily answering the desire to returns in these investment portfolios, not getting the returns.
You're absolutely correct. Look, I think ESG is a loser. I look at the failure of the Silicon Bank. It had ESG mumbo jumbo plastered all over their collateral materials and their website. And I'm sorry. I think a lot of those players are a bunch of hypocrites. They focus and won't invest in certain American industries, but they'll gladly send their dollars to China that doesn't care about the environment or human rights. So they're speaking out both sides of their mouth. And, and then you get the extreme where, look, I just want a good return on investment, but then you get the extreme where Larry Fink and BlackRock and these guys want to go way out there on a limb, and they wonder why they're getting criticized. Well, it's because they're trying to put politics in play with governance of taxpayers' dollars. And do that with your own money. Go start a foundation. Go get in politics. I just need a business partner who cares about returns on the investment of Florida taxpayers' money.
Well, I made the same exact point just recently. The fact that these money managers are perfectly fine putting their money in communist China, even though you're pretty much funding the expansion of our number one adversary, but they push back on anything fossil fuel related, and they won't give money to American companies that are involved in drilling or fossil fuel in any way, even though the president himself admits we're not done in terms of using fossil fuels.
No, I agree. Well, again, and I appreciate. Look, I was in New York about a month ago. We've got a lot of our dollars are managed through good people in New York. But I appreciate meeting with Jamie Dimon. They're still going to invest in fossils. And look, at the end of the day, I think there's a certain amount of good that goes along with it. But unfortunately, it is not in the best interest of the middle class taxpayer in the state of Florida. We don't need to saddle them. Inflation's already crippling them anyway. And now you're going to make an environment where their investments are going to have even poorer returns.
We've got a new Wallet Hub study that finds Republican-led states, on average, use taxpayer money more effectively and yield a better return on investment than Democrat-led blue states. Jimmy, is that what you're saying? That the fact is the Democrat-led states are acting like philanthropies?
Look, all the blue states are at the bottom of the list. So Florida is, look, we were number two, only number two to New Hampshire. Look, I'm not living in New Hampshire, but I know this. When we're at a point of 22 million people and the state of Florida's budget is half of New York's, and we've got more people than they do, there's a problem. This is why people are fleeing the New Yorks and moving to Florida. And this is what I've always said my 17 years in public service. The citizens of the state of Florida spend their money a hell of a lot better than Tallahassee does.
Look at all those endowments, the university endowments. They're doing the same thing. They're going for ESG rather than actual fundamentals to make returns.
And you think about what the goal is. The goal is to help make education affordable. And they're getting in these ivory towers and being isolated away from the reality of return on investments. Look, ESG has definitely got a buzz about it. It's just time to make sure that the emperor knows he has no clothes. This is a ridiculous investment policy. It's not in the best interest of our country, and it's only enhancing the capability and economic power of those of the likes of China.
Yeah, and yet the president's vetoing the pushback from Republicans. Jimmy, we're going to keep a spotlight on it. Thanks very much for being here this morning.
Great to be with you.
All right, Jimmy Patronis joining us in Florida. Quick break.